When I step up on a diamond, 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 diamonds on my wrist. When I step up on
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. Freight Coach Morning Show coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. As you guys can see, I got a couple of special guests here today that we're going to just talk about the realities of the transportation industry. My name is Chris Jolly, as most of you guys know, and this is the Freight Coach Morning Show live every single weekday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. We're just here to talk about the realities of what we go through in freight. And at the end of the day, we're just here to bring some value, to have some education, to help you guys in your daily business. I'm sick and tired of fear mongering and all this other bullshit that goes on out there. So we're here to talk about how you can take data and utilize it to your advantage instead of selling all your equipment. So before we get into today's show, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub, you guys. Asset reutilization is the wave of the future for freight and brokers alike, in my opinion. Legitimately, if you go to vhubapp.com, as you guys can see, it's going across the ticker there at the bottom. You can talk to them about a drop trailer pool that you can bring to your shipping partners out there. Because again, I've never once had a shipper ask me to stage a truck at their facility, but they do need drop trailers. So look into that. I mean, right now alone in Toronto, they have 50 long-term dry vans that you guys can utilize to create a drop trailer pool out there. Sounds good, Patrick. I will gladly remove you if you want it. And then also there is a repositioning that's out there. So like right now in Glade Spring, Virginia, there's 9 dry vans that they have out there. They're brand new. They have 3 that are looking to go to Vancouver, British Columbia, 3 that are looking to go to Winnipeg, Manitoba, and 3 over to Edmonton, Alberta. And you can legitimately make money on this. So they're willing to pay $1,850 just to reposition the trailer alone. So you can make money on that if you're a power only move. And then from there, you know, again, like there's like, and then you can add freight to that as well to kind of increase your revenue. And then they also have some round trip options out there right now as well, you guys. So as a broker, if you're looking to do some one-way power onlys, you can, they have some freight coming in right now. They have some trailers in Wilmington, Illinois, which is down in the Chicagoland area. And then they're looking to position it up to Coteau du Lac, Quebec, which is just outside of Montreal. And then you have a trailer up there looking to head down to Edwardsville, Illinois. So again, you can create this round trip matrix. Again, utilize it, vhubapp.com, and check it out right there. Good morning, Samantha Bass, and good morning to my 2 special guests from greenscreens.ai, Kevin and Dawn. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to be here, man. Appreciate it.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It was good to finally meet you guys at the TIA. It was 2 weeks ago. Has it been 2 weeks already?
2 weeks. I can't remember. Yeah, it's crazy.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah. San Diego is amazing, isn't it? That was my first time there. Was it your guys' first time?
It's awesome.
No,
it's been a while. Yeah,
it's been a while, but yeah, I've been there for a conference before too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
but
I like it. I like it. I'm definitely going back, especially being as close as I am out here in Phoenix. It's just a quick flight, to say the least. So Green Screens, what is it? For anybody out there who doesn't know who you guys are, what's Green Screens all about?
So Green Screens, essentially, Samantha is a customer of ours at Jones. Thanks, Samantha. So what we've done at Green Screens is we've designed an AI machine learning engine to provide real-time dynamic pricing for spot truckload movements. So utilizing different market factors, a customer's own data, a consortium of data from our customers, to essentially tell our customers, you know, both targeted and across the market, what each individual broker should pay for a load based on their data and their characteristics in a lane. And then also across the network, kind of what the market will bear on that lane. So
I like it. Again, it's pricing, all of that stuff, you guys, is so key. And then having that real time data, I think is, again, data is king, and for again, I'm from the old school in the sense where it's like, I love working on a lane by lane basis, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to be versatile in your pricing. You need to be able to adapt to current market conditions that are out there, and that's the thing is it's like all of you in the Los Angeles market today are going to start to realize here very quick how volatile that market gets in the outbound and how fast rates increase and fluctuate. And I mean, that's really in anything out there. So, again, I'm glad you guys are kind of tackling that head on. And I'm ready to break down some articles. How about you guys?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Before we do, though, did you guys know we're up to day 10 on the Freight Coach Morning Show tally for that there's a truck parking issue in this industry? Do you guys know that?
I think it's more than that, but the tally, yeah, sure.
I started that
tally was up to that.
Yeah, I started the tally because of it. It was, it's one of those things to me, you guys, where a lot of the things that we talk about in this industry, and hell, even in society as a whole, it's like, it's only why are we talking about it when it's popular to talk about it, where it's going to get you some vanity likes and everything. And my thing is we got to continue to talk about this stuff. Like, we can't just let any of this stuff all go away. So it's like, for me on that, until there is an actual change out there, I'm going to bring it up every single day of the week that I have to. And then same with the bathrooms and stuff that are out there, that there's a bathroom issue. I'm going to continue to bring that up until that there's some actual change. And again, I see both sides. I understand that some of those facilities are there. It's for a reason, but at the end of the day, we gotta do something about it. We just can't stop fighting and advocating for our carrier partners alike. What's going on, Xavier? I'm assuming this is Todd Waldron, because he's the only, or Matthew Fink, because they're the only two that come across as LinkedIn users out there.
How do you mask that when you put in comments? That's interesting.
No, because it's on their security settings are that's up there.
Yeah.
All right. So the first article we're going to break down today from my friends over at the JOC. U.S. freight markets rebalancing, according to some trucking executives out here. This article was released a couple of days ago. The article starts out, after 2 years of rocketing U.S. freight rates, especially in the spot truckload market, surface transportation markets are rebalancing, according to trucking executive who spoke at Transact Technologies webinar. Greater emphasis on increasing efficiencies to reduce transportation costs, regardless of rate cycles, is creating truck capacity that is still much needed by their customers, they said. Our assets are turning slightly better than they were last year, meaning trucks and trailers are moving more quickly through shipper and receiver docks. Shelley Simpson, the chief commercial officer at JB Hunt Transportation Services, said during that webinar as well. The labor situation is slightly better, but the dislocation of assets and people during COVID-19 has not disappeared out there. Chandler, what's going on, man? What do you guys think about that? What are your guys' thoughts about some of this stuff?
Chris, this is a topic that I've really been passionate about for a long time, like decades, right? So like you said, with the truck parking issue, that this isn't a new issue, right? I've spent 20 plus years mostly focused on load consolidation and routing algorithms and balancing of freight. And this has been a problem that's always existed, right? But it's ripe with a lot of trade-offs and really needs a lot of collaboration and buy-in, right? And I think that we've seen silos of efficiency, mostly within some of the larger carriers or larger shippers. There's still a lot of work that can be done, and that's starting to happen, right? But there's some pretty big capital bets on this. Like, if you think about from a shipper, what are some of the things that a shipper can do to rebalance? Well, load consolidation, or increasing economic order quantities, or delaying shipments to have larger, less frequent shipments, or leveraging cross-dock networks. But these are all major shifts in a distribution strategy for a company, right? And they require new technology or partners, and take a lot of time to implement and roll out to really get to a level of effectivity, right? And I think even more importantly, it takes a lot of collaboration with both your internal and external stakeholders. So, even taking something as bread and butter, baseball and apple pie as load consolidation, there's a ton of internal and external buy-in that's needed for a company to do that, right? Loss prevention needs to buy in on multi-stops at the risk of having seals broken and reapplied, and customer service needs to buy in on the risk of missing your on-time in full metrics because of delays that are caused by a previous stop. And what happens when one of the stops loads too much product on the truck and blows out the trailer, right? So there's a lot of things that need to be considered, and it doesn't fit for everything. And the load consolidation piece is sure, it's going to save you money, it's going to reduce the capacity that you need, but then you have the problem of, what carrier really wants to take that ugly 5 to 7 stop load that's going to deliver across 3 states over 2 to 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Virtually nobody. So then that means the shipper might need to start looking at more of a dedicated fleet strategy, right? Which is another huge bet. And increasing economic order quantities. I mean, there's a lot of upstream supply chain processes and downstream that are all impacted by a lot of these, right? So that's kind of my thought. But that's the shipper side.
Yeah.
The brokers and the 3PLs, you don't control the customer's fulfillment and distribution strategies, right? So you just need to move the freight that's offered to you and maximize or balance service and margin as best as you can. So to me, unless you're doing managed trans or you have your own cross-dock network that you could collaborate with your customer, for me, it really comes down to relationships and carrier relationship management and really having a true collaborative partnership with your carriers and kind of operating in a connected ecosystem of partners, right, that are collaborating
Yeah.
together.
And it's fun. I'm glad you brought that up because one line that stuck out to me in this entire article was overall speakers at the webinar suggested shippers should spend less time tracking pricing cycles and more time working directly with carriers to reduce costs. Kevin, I want to get your opinion on that. But before that, I want to say, isn't it our job as a service provider to work with our customers, not have them come to us about those things? Like, especially when it comes to pricing cycles, like I like, of course, a shipper is going to pay attention to pricing cycles because they have to make money too in all of this. Like that has to make sense for them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, when you start talking about like dislocation of assets, right? And where are the trucks? Where is the capacity, right? And especially with like the COVID effects and the economic effects in the last couple of years, the markets have actually shifted, right? The capacity, where the availability is, has shifted just purely because of seasonality shifts, backlogs, port congestion, things of that nature. And so when you start talking about, like you said, like stop focusing on price or stop focusing on one piece of the puzzle and start looking at utilization or start looking at demand planning, that sort of stuff. Well, it all goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
We talk about this quite a bit. It's a fragmented industry. It's not just all large carriers with large fleets that are moving all this freight. There's a lot of owner operators. We've seen the shift change in the industry. If you've kept up, if anybody's kept up in the last 10 years, more towards owner operation.
Correct.
And more towards smaller fleets because they're more nimble, right? They are more willing to take specific loads, to Don's point, that might be a little bit more of a pain in the ass. And so when you talk about, disconnecting one piece of the puzzle from the others, that's counterproductive.
No, exactly. And
you have to look at the data as a whole, and you have to connect your technology and connect your data so that, you can demand plan, right, across the board. So
no, absolutely. I think that, again, it's like, obviously there's this is why I love talking to everybody out there, because there's a lot of different opinions. There's a lot of different takes. It's not just a listen to us, our word is bond and everything else out there. Because again, like 97%, I don't know how this falls on so many deaf ears, but 97% of the fleets on the road are 20 truck or less operations.
Mm-hmm.
You got to ask that happened for a reason. Like there's a reason why there isn't 3 or 4 mega carriers that own every truck. There's a reason for that, because people enjoy not having a boss. People enjoy the fact that they can go out and start their own business. They don't want to work for anybody else. And that if they're out there, again, it's like, I'm not sitting here ever going to say that we got to be the ones to provide a business plan, but we also need to be the ones to provide the education and the resources to our carrier partners. Because as a broker, again, until you can figure out how to broker a load without a truck and make money doing it and somehow figure out how to move it, let me know. You might be a billionaire overnight at that take. Renee Johnson, happy Earth Day as well. That article, you guys, is on joc.com. It's the title of it is Truckload Freight, U.S. Freight Market Rebalancing, according to trucking executives that are out there. Our second article comes from Freight Waves, and it kind of seemed like a shout out to Knight Swift and saying that a trucking downturn would favor carriers with large trailer pools. I think that any market does, but I got to give a shout out to my friends at Freight Vana. They're the first broker who bought like 1,000 dry vans to work on the drop trailer pool. situation from a pure brokerage perspective. And obviously my friends at VHub, you know, they have a great solution out there as well. So it's like, I think, in my perspective that, yeah, it's trailer pools are obviously very key. But you know, again, this is like the emphasis that I'm seeing out here a lot right now. And this is what really just makes my blood boil a lot, is it's like, oh, the big carriers are going to fare better than the small. Okay, but why? You know, like why are we advocating for that shit? And that's what pisses me off, is it seems like that's the growing sentiment, is people need to go out of business so the larger carriers can swoop up all of the capacity at that point. And it's like, I don't know. Again, I'm trying to keep my personal emotions out of it and keep a very subjective viewpoint, but it's getting very challenging to do that. You know, a snippet from that. The reality is equipment is very scarce and has a limited useful life. We've not, as an industry, supplied the industry with enough trucks to really accommodate the aging useful life of equipment, says the CEO of Knight Swift. Original equipment manufacturers, he noted, are coping with production delays, aren't taking more orders, and will be late making deliveries as they were last year. With less new capacity, big fleets are trading equipment at the same price, which means smaller carriers can't add capacity or must buy at peak prices. We're not enabling small carriers to affordably come in and add capacity, Jackson said. The number of used trucks we are selling, in some cases, we're selling for as much or close to what we paid for a brand new one before we put 450 or 500,000 miles on the truck. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I'm going to say it again. Not a new problem, right?
No, exactly.
not a newsflash.
Not at all.
Look, I mean, we saw this, 10 to 15 years ago. It's just another cycle that this industry goes through, and the reasons may be different this time, but the outcome is the same, right? 10 to 15 years ago, we saw the older trucks were pretty much rendered obsolete because of EPA regulations and things like that. The fleet owners were selling those assets off overseas, right? Selling it to Eastern Europe or into Mexico. The truck manufacturers weren't able to manufacture the newer models with the necessary engine technology. I mean, all of that, right? And the outcome was the same. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on where you landed at the time, we were also kind of entering a recession, right?
Yeah.
So demand started also decreasing, and then things balanced out, albeit temporarily. Point is, it's just another cycle, right?
Yeah.
But your point about, the small to medium carriers being an absolute necessity in the industry is 100% right on. And I think it goes back to what I said before about more collaboration and better relationships within our carrier base that isn't so skewed towards the larger fleet owners. And I think the article itself says contract rates are mostly tied to trailer pools and dedicated fleets. Duh. Okay. Yes. But I think
Which isn't entirely true, though, because last time I checked, when I was a broker, I never owned either of them, and I was tied to long-term contracted freights as well. So just throwing that little caveat out.
Sure. But I think for the smaller carriers, the play needs to be around, those strategic discussions, and creating programs that actually fit these smaller fleet operators, not only on that more transactional business, but also on some of the more regular lanes. And look, we're kind of an untrusting lot in this industry, right? Like we definitely have some trust issues, and there's a natural hesitance towards true partnerships and leveraging and sharing data and collaboration. But the reality is that if we as an industry don't begin to overcome that, and I see that starting when the market shifts again, and that's a when, not an if, it will shift again, because it always does. We're once again going to find ourselves in a world of hurt with capacity and astronomical rates. And the small to mid-sized fleets are an important part of the balance that we need to establish, right?
Yeah.
And I think to kind of go further on a point that you made in discussing the last article is the relationships on both the shipper and the carrier side. A lot of brokers may say, well, who has the time to do that because I'm chasing rates, right? And I don't disagree with that, but the 10 to 15 years ago, or unlike 10 to 15 years ago, the technology now has evolved to support these more collaborative networks, and will continue to evolve towards that. And, we're hoping to be at the forefront of that, which is kind of remaking the procurement process into something that's more inclusive and iterative and collaborative.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. That's the thing, is it's like, every single cycle, it seems like, oh shit, the British are here. The British are here. Like that's what
the world is burning. It's all
It's
falling
the
apart
perfect
again.
storm.
I know. It's
every
like,
single
Christ.
time. Yeah.
There's been a freight market. This is cyclical. This is going to happen. This is going to change. And it's like, again, like I was talking about an article the other day. It's like, I couldn't imagine being like, I'm a fan of making money, but I couldn't imagine being that sales rep going into my shipper when my Q1 or earnings were released and we just made like $80 billion. And they're like, yeah, we got to talk about increasing our rates here. We're just, driver short. Like, could you imagine being in that position? That's the gift and the curse of all of this stuff out there. Because again, I think like at the end of the day, what never changes is the fact that as a broker, you need capacity. All right. And then furthermore, all of these mega carriers that are in a lot of these articles, they're not fucking working with you as a small broker. They're not working with you at all. Hell, they didn't even work with us when I worked for a large broker because they have their own shit. They don't need us, So again, it's like, we got to put ourselves out there and we got to find a solution. Robert Bain. Thank you. Thank you, sir. God. Now I'm thrown off. He just knows how to speak.
You made him blush, Rob.
No heckling, Bain. No heckling.
Yeah. So that article, if you guys want to see it, it's at freightwaves.com. Title of it is Night Swift says trucking downturn with favorite carriers with large.
Can I add something on that article real quick, Chris? Yeah. So to Don's point too, and this kind of goes back to the previous article as well, but like, if that's the situation in the market, right? If we're seeing a situation where the market is shifting to an environment where people are worried, right? It's becoming more unpredictable. We're worried about freight rates going up. So everybody's answer to that is, oh, well, let's shift the pendulum in the other direction. Let's go back to contracts. Let's go long term. I think I think honestly, I don't think we're ever going back to what it was before, right? Where we have these big long-term contracts. And I think there's a lot of factors that play into that. Some of that is, the just difference in the change of the dynamic environment of the market, seasonality changes, the effects, those types of things. Also the globalization effect. Yeah. We don't control China shutting down Shanghai's port, right? Yeah. We don't control Russia invading Ukraine and causing these oil and gas issues. We don't control any of that anymore. And we're not going back from that. So these problems, these cyclical changes, this chaos is here to stay. It's not going away. And so the only way to address that is not, oh, let's just get on more contracts and then the price we'll just fix that price. We need to do better about having quicker, easier, accessible information and data, integrating so that you can make those decisions in a dynamic environment with your capacity, with your trucks, right? If you're sitting there posting on a load board every day and just hoping you're getting calls, what are you doing? Like you can't, it's just, that can't happen anymore, right? Maybe 15 years ago, but now you got to have better carrier relationships and you got to understand the data in those carrier relationships to leverage them more effectively in specific lanes and specific situations, so that when you are having a hard time in a certain lane where that market has no capacity, you have go-to guys that you can go out there to, right? Not this post and pray thing. Yeah. Like we got to get away from that.
I would say this, here's just an absolute left field fucking solution. Talk to your shippers about what they need from us to sustain through these market shifts. Instead of us telling them what needs to happen, maybe sit down and be like, all right, how do we work through this together? I would love to hear from all my shippers who are in the audience and listening to this on how many times that actually happens. If a broker's coming out and or a carrier's reaching out to you saying, what can we do, as opposed to this is what we need. I think that, again, you talk, because everybody fucking, relationships, fucking relationships are more than one-sided. And that's the thing, is everybody screams relationships when it affects their fucking pocketbook. And that's what's the biggest unsaid issue in this industry, is everybody fucking preaches relationships when they're getting fucked over, but then they want to scream it from the mountaintops when it starts to affect our bottom line. Take this approach. The shippers, the last time I checked, are the ones who control if I get paid as a provider. I want to sit down with my shippers, my customers, and be like, how do we navigate through this? This is what the data is saying. The data is what it is. What do you need us to be at? How can we all remain profitable? I think that's a conversation that probably rarely happens. Again, any of my shipper friends who are watching this, DM me. You can remain completely anonymous. How many providers actually come to you and say, we want to work through this with you, as opposed to this is what you need to do for us? Let me see
Chris,
here.
I
Yeah.
think that's a great lead in into the next article
Yeah.
too, right? Because and Bain said it here, dynamic contracts, and talking to your shippers and your carriers. And sorry about that, guys. Look, retailers and manufacturers have been successfully doing demand forecasting and CPFR, right? Collaborative
Mhm.
planning, forecasting, and replenishment for decades, right? And I've always been like, why doesn't somebody do this for transportation procurement, right? Why
Yeah.
doesn't somebody do this? And, back in the day, there was VIX, and I co chaired the Collaborative Transportation Management Committee. But in that committee, we could never seem to get past the collaborative part of it was
Yeah.
electronic tendering and visibility and ASNs, which is table stakes, right? But this whole idea of dynamic contracts and collaborating, sharing forecasts that then are used as part of a more dynamic negotiation process. And I think the barriers previously were really threefold. Number one, well, and it goes back to what I said earlier about upstream and downstream buy-in, but I think transportation, up until fairly recently, was still kind of the redheaded stepchild of the supply chain, or rather the strategic role of transportation, or not having a good transportation strategy wasn't as widely acknowledged as it is now, right? I think the technology wasn't there yet for freight procurement, because think about some of those demand forecast models
Yeah.
could have literally taken days to run, and we simply don't have that kind of time in transportation.
Yeah.
And
And
then last,
this is the JOC article, right? So the third
yeah,
article that, yeah, you guys, it's from the JOC as well. And it's procurement automation already influencing freight buying cycles. That's what Dawn is kind of touching base on here. Sorry, I try and throw that stuff out there.
sorry,
I
I
just cite
jumped
my
ahead.
sources.
But
It's
then
all good.
last, I think, big data collaboration mindset was not yet
Yeah.
well entrenched. And again, that goes back to saying, we're kind of an untrusting lot in logistics, but the tables are turning. And I kind of say amen to this article, because I think people have started to better understand the strategic value of transportation, right?
Yeah.
Not just to an individual company, but to the global supply chain, right?
Yeah. And
Uh,
I know this isn't a popular opinion out there, Don, but as a freight broker, like legitimately, let's be honest, you guys, 90% of our jobs should be fucking automated. All right. Like we should not be doing 90% of the things that we are. It's costing us money. So you can focus on that, the buzzword relationship. You can be talking to your shipper about more than, oh shit, I got 17 tenders. Oh fuck, I got to go to this screen, that screen. No, all of that shit should be automated.
Agree. Agree.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that the technology has evolved to that. I think particularly with AI and machine learning, right? It's made it much more feasible to deal with the data processing required to do this and to do it more quickly. And again, I think people are becoming more open,
Yeah.
and understand the value of democratizing the data and the systems that are required to do it. And I'm just going to cite another article. Dan Lewis did a blog post yesterday, I think.
Yeah. From Convoy.
Yeah, and while
Mhm.
everybody isn't Convoy, nor has the money or the human capital to enable it, but I think it's a big reason that we're here as green screens is to bring that same level of
Yeah.
connectedness and efficiency and collaboration to the masses who aren't Convoy, right?
No, absolutely. And that's the thing is it's like, I'm a massive proponent of technology. I truly am. I think that an overwhelming majority of our job, like I had said, should be automated. But what won't ever go away, and this
Good
is what's
comments.
lost. And I think like from a tech standpoint, it's all about the marketing. I think that some of these digital brokers and players out there, they got a bad rap because they essentially said, in my opinion, like, oh, you guys don't know what you're fucking doing. We're going to come in here and save the day. But I think reality has came up to the fact that, like we do know what we're doing in transportation. And again, it's from a marketing pitch. I think that, yeah, the overwhelming majority, automation, integrations, all of that stuff, data is king out there. And we need to utilize that and leverage that to our advantage because everybody makes more. Everybody becomes more and more efficient. I think the old school way of doing things is what a lot of people are stuck on is it's like, oh, I've always done it this way. Well, if you actually sat down and broke down what technology can bring to you, it will clean up that one line item that is invincible on a P&L, which is lost productivity. That'll
Yes.
never show up
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
P&L. Unfortunately, they can't track that. But technology identifies that. You should be streamlining and automating a lot of that so you can focus in on that stuff.
And I don't think that's a really good point, Chris, because it's not about removing a human from the equation, right? It's not about automating the whole process where a robot's just going to sit there and put a load in, find a truck, quote the customer, do the whole thing end to end. There's too many exceptions.
Needs to yell at me Friday.
Yeah, exactly. There's too many exceptions. Right? Somebody's got to get yelled at. Exactly. Like that isn't going to happen. But to your point, it's about leveraging the technology and the data to make each human more effective.
Yeah.
Right. There was at the TIA, Don was on a panel with a lot of different people, Parade and Turbo, McLeod, Truck Stop, and they were talking about AI and machine learning. And the guy from McLeod, and his name escapes me now, Chris from McLeod, he made a really good point. Somebody had asked, like, rudimentary, like layman's terms, like, what can AI and machine learning do to help a human, right? At a desk covering freight, what can it do for them? He made a really good analogy about, he's like, okay, imagine if we're sitting in this room and there's 150 people in this room and everybody's talking to you at the same time all at once, right? Asking you questions, asking you for information, feeding you data so you can respond to them in kind. One human being can't take all of that information at once, process all of it, and then decide who to respond to first, how to respond, what information to crunch to answer the questions. But a computer can do that. And AI can do that. It can take all those data points transactionally, can take billions of data points and then provide the human with elements of that can help them make decisions, right? Yeah. And that's really the key to it. Right, is it's enabling those people to be more efficient and more productive, to your point, doing revenue generating activities instead of spending 30 minutes doing research. So
that's exactly it. And you guys, that article is from the JOC, Procurement Automation Already Influencing Freight Buying Cycles. Check it out there of the JOC. That's it. That was that was our 3 articles. There's a lot. We come in hot. We want to provide some value out there. I appreciate you guys joining me today. How does anybody reach out to either one of you to find out more about what you guys are doing, or how they just want to talk?
Yeah, you can go to our website. It's right there on the screen, greenscreens.ai. That's the website. So if you want to get a demo or you want to chat with us, you can make a request on there and we'll get back to you same day. I promise.
Perfect. I like it. Well, hey, everybody, thank you all. Robert, Bain, you made me blush. I appreciate you guys all. Check out my sponsor, VHub. You guys are the ones who are making the show possible every single weekday from 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. Every single weekday, we're here to talk about the realities of this industry. We're here to educate people, to keep people in business. All right. That is the sole focus of this, is we want to keep people in business. We want to preserve that American dream that all of us are working so fucking hard to fight for every single day. All right. It's that simple. That's what we're here for. We're here to educate and progress this industry instead of talking about the same shit that everybody has for the last 30 years. Let's change the trajectory of this industry. Let's be the change that we want. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back on Monday. I appreciate you guys.